Out front tonight, the breaking news, list of lies. Robert Mueller tonight filing this court document laying out how Trump's campaign chairman Paul Manafort lied to investigators. Now, all in it's 188 pages. Obviously, I'm holding up the summary here of these lies. Despite some of the heavy redactions, which do continue on page after page, pages of blacked out text in some places, we are able to make some sense of this via some of the places that are a bit less black. Mueller accusing Manafort of lying about his communications with the Trump administration. Communications that continued well into 2018. That's the year that just ended, 15 days ago? Just to reiterate the obvious, because it's really important. Communications well into 2018 is communications well into Trump's presidency. And Manafort, who was at the center of the Mueller probe under investigation, was talking about getting jobs for people in the Trump administration. Also in this filing tonight, we see Mueller's focus on Manafort's longtime Russian associate, Konstantin Kilimnik. Now, Kilimnik is an important name. Mueller says he's an agent of Putin, of Russian intelligence. He appears to be a key player in the Mueller probe. And this is crucial because Kilimnik is reportedly the go-between between Paul Manafort, right, Trump's campaign chairman, and the Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, a close Putin ally. A Putin ally that Team Trump is trying to ease sanctions on right now. And that is proving to be too much for some Republicans to stomach. Today, in a stunning rebuke, Republicans telling President Trump he is wrong when he went on Fox News to claim this.
I can tell you this. If you ask the folks in Russia, I've been tougher on Russia than anybody else, probably any other president, period. But certainly the last 3 or 4 presidents, modern day presidents, nobody's been as tough as I have from any standpoint.
Not the toughest to Republicans. 10 of them breaking with President Trump on Russia, joining Senate Democrats to advance a measure that would block a move by Trump's Treasury Department to ease sanctions, to relax sanctions on 3 companies that are at the center of Oleg Deripaska's billions and billions dollar universe. Senator Kennedy, just moments ago, speaking to our Manu Raju, saying it is Deripaska that has proved a Russian bridge too far.
I have grave concerns about Mr. Deripaska.
Evan Perez is out front live in Washington to begin our coverage. And Evan, this filing, as I know you've been reading through all of it with all the backup documentation, brings this even closer to the Trump administration.
You know, it really does, because the filing describes that Manafort is having these contacts into the administration even while he was indicted. I mean, that's one of the things that is really stunning from this, is the idea you're having these contacts while Paul Manafort is under indictment in 2018, right? He's defending himself in these 2 trials. And you would think that people in the administration would try to, sort of keep at arm's length, given the fact that they know this investigation is ongoing. And what we learned, Erin, is that as part of this investigation, Paul Manafort testified before the grand jury. And apparently the grand jury is asking questions about the person you mentioned, Konstantin Kilimnik, who the special counsel, who the FBI says is somebody who works with the GRU, the Russian intelligence agency. That's one of the agencies that was behind the DNC hack. So I think if you take a step back here, I think you can start seeing that the Mueller investigators are trying to connect some dots. There's a lot of this, obviously, that we cannot see in this filing so far, but it does appear that Kilimnik is a very key part of this, is a very key part of the collusion case that the Mueller investigators are still very much working on.
All right. Thank you very much. And Evan, just to make the point, again, Kilimnik, the go-between, according to Mueller, right, between Manafort and Oleg Deripaska, who is at the center of this sanctions attempt by the Trump administration to ease sanctions on Deripaska companies, correct?
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right.
All right. Thank you very much, Evan. Obviously, big developments this hour. And I want to go to John Dean, former Nixon White House counsel, Ann Milgram, former federal prosecutor, and David Gergen, former advisor to 4 presidents, including Nixon and Clinton. David, let me start, with you as you put this together. This is crucial, right? It goes into 2018 when we talk about Manafort's lies, communications with the Trump administration. And at the center of it is Oleg Deripaska. Oleg Deripaska. Who the Trump administration is trying to ease sanctions on his companies right now. How big of a rebuke against President Trump is this vote today by 11 Republicans who said no? Deripaska is a bridge too far.
John Dean will remember as well as I do how things got very, very complicated in another White House and more suspicious, and it turned out the suspicions were true. And what one sees here is a very complex case, but the fact that Paul Manafort, under indictment, continued to have contacts within the White House, that his go-between leads back to Deripaska, and that this same administration is now trying to lift sanctions to give Mr. Deripaska, a free pass in effect, or lifting the sanctions against him and his companies, I think is stunning. It's extraordinarily suspicious, and I do think that Republicans now are waking up to the fact that on this and other fronts, but particularly this Russian issue, that they better be darn cautious because we're playing with real dynamite now.
I mean, and it appears real dynamite. We're talking about, as Evan said, under indictment. Paul Manafort is talking to people in the Trump administration, a sitting administration. And it goes back to an agent, Mueller says an agent of the Russian government, tied to a guy they're trying to ease sanctions on.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 points worth making. First of all, the fact that Manafort would reach out to the White House is not that surprising because we've seen him, allegedly obstruct justice while he was under indictment already. I mean, he's taken a number of actions. He tried to write an op-ed clearing his name. Yeah. What's stunning is that anyone in the White House would have communications with him. While the president is still under investigation by Robert Mueller, while the campaign is still under investigation, that's stunning. The part about the sanctions is also we're in the middle of a criminal investigation where all these names are mentioned as people who are associated with Manafort, associated with Putin, potential Russian, Kilimnik is a known Russian asset, intelligence asset. To be doing this in the middle of an investigation is just stunning.
John Dean.
My reaction?
Yep.
First of all, I'm amazed. I looked at the affidavit, and unfortunately about 80% of the affidavit is blocked out. But I did notice that while they focus on 5 lies or 5 areas of lies, the agent says there's much more evidence than we're even presenting here. So this is just a tip of the iceberg. And the Senate vote doesn't surprise me for this reason. That underlying legislation passed like 98-2 in the Senate. And it was bipartisan at the time, so it's not surprising that, and of course the Senate voted before Mueller had made his filing, which would have even compounded. But it's going to take only a simple majority to proceed with sanctions, and it looks like they've got it.
Right. Now, of course, then, puts the president in an awkward position, or he's got to decide, right? Which side's he going to take? To make it clear which side he's on. But, does he veto against his own party? I mean, David Gergen, to have, impeachment go through, you've got to have Republicans on board. It's a political question. So putting aside the technical term of conspiracy and whether there's anything there, does the move you see here from Republicans to say, look, this is too far, we'll vote against, could it end up being a small predictor of what is possible or not?
I think we ought to be very cautious on this. What the Republicans are objecting to now is far short of the Republicans potentially voting on impeachment. There have to be a lot more here, but it does show that the Republican unity is cracking on this and other fronts, such as the shutdown, and that the president does not is not in command the way he once was. He's much more vulnerable. He's thrashing around, and all of that is to suggest that this has gotten a lot more serious. I also think, frankly, we're also looking at a longer period of time for Mueller than we thought. We thought it might be a matter of days, not weeks. Yeah. It looks like it could be months. One last thing, Erin. The William Barr testimony today, I think, really is going to come right down in the middle of this because he clearly, frankly, as welcome as many of his comments were and his stance on transparency and everything else, he very clearly left the impression that the Mueller report, which the public has been waiting for, may not ever see the light of day. Yeah. What we may see is a Barr report. I don't think that's going to go down well with the country.
And we're going to be talking much more about that in just a moment. And when you take it together, where do you think we are? I mean, everyone was saying, we're close to the end here, in part because Rosenstein said he was ready to go, and he had indicated that he wouldn't do that until Mueller was done. But now you've got these filings. You've got new people that they're looking at, they say, related to Jerome Corsi and Roger Stone. Is it possible that there's a lot longer of a runway here than we thought, as David said?
I mean, I think Mueller's going to want to wrap up as soon as he can. That level of redaction shows that there's still a lot that we don't know. But remember that Mueller may have already put a lot of evidence into the grand jury. He may just have not voted an indictment out. So in terms of timing, I still think it's months. I don't think we're looking at years. But I agree with David. It's not tomorrow. There's work still.
And as some were thinking, look, we were weeks away. I guess it's possible, but this would indicate possibly that we're not.
It's hard to know. This indicates that there's a lot we still don't